I agree with Andrew. What a terrific show this has been. I have not been to all the 6 tools of change, but I've been in the publishing space for 30 years, and I just can't remember a time when I felt so much energy, so many ideas flowing, so much change, and so many challenges through disruption in our market. When I come to these shows and I see so many ideas and have so many interactions with smart folks, I like to make sure as I leave, I take away just a few key points. And I hope that in the next few minutes, I can reinforce what I think have been themes running through this conference that you will take away to focus on and turn into actionable items for your businesses. A little context, as Joe said, I'm Chief Operating Officer for VitalSource Technologies. We believe we're the leading e-textbook platform in the higher education space. Our bookshelf application today has over 2 million registered users, students, faculty members. We're adding over 10,000 each week. We're a publisher agnostic, platform agnostic platform. We run on iOS, Android, web browsers, Macs, PCs. Our content is being delivered in over 17 languages to nearly all the countries in the world. So the theme of the conference, change, forward, fast, and repeat. You've heard that over and over again, right? But it's tough to figure out which direction is forward, right? I mean, how do you know how to change? In what direction should you be moving? One of the pieces to that, two kind of key points. Again, I think we've heard this from lean startup to session on agile publishing and so forth is you need to have the proper analytics to make decisions, and you need to iterate and experiment. And that's really what I want to talk to you about this afternoon. So, Great by Choice, written by Jim Collins and Morton Hansen. Great book. These guys studied what happens in times of disruption. In industries that are undergoing disruption, what differentiates the companies that really stand apart, separate from themselves from their peers? What are the things that they did? What are the actions that they took? What distinguished them, these guys that are the 10Xers, the folks that outpace their peers by 10 times? And what they found was it's not the folks who are wildly innovative that were the most successful. Instead, it was people who innovated, but did that in a data-driven model, an empirical data-driven model. And by having the data, they were able to manage their risk, right? And to go forward with confidence. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening in data in our industry. Andrew's, the graphs and so forth, the charts that Andrew was showing are great examples of this. I've been in the supply chain a long time. We sort of, with print material, we track a lot about where sales are happening, where they go. With digital content fulfillment, though, the kind of information that we can glean really has changed. It's a byproduct of serving the content digitally. We know, whether you're through a web browser or through some other client, we know when pages are changed. We know when notes or highlights are made. We know these things because they have to be synchronized up into the cloud. It's a byproduct of what we're doing. We know what kinds of themes readers are searching on. In the education space, we know when they are and are not engaging and how they're engaging with learning objects. And we gather assessment data, and we can pull all that together. The institutions are already well down this path. They're looking hard at learning analytics. They tend to be focused on both, improving the student experience, improving learning outcomes, and also they're looking for the kinds of information that they need to improve and manage persistence, or what's the likelihood that if you're enrolled in the institution that you're going to be successful and you're going to want to take the next courses. So the kinds of information they're looking at, this is beginning to happen. There was a great session yesterday from the Blackboard folks talking about where the learning management systems are going in this direction. The content engagement piece, the piece that we gather at VitalSource and other e-fulfillment providers, is just one piece. You've got to take that data silo and add it together with learning management system data, student information system data, data that you know out of the CRM, other sources. And out of that, you can crunch those numbers, you can generate the reports, you can start to look at the detailed information that you need. Now, the publishers have a different need for information, but much of it can still be driven out of this content engagement piece. So here you may want, in the education space, student engagement is probably less critical to know who the student is, right? But you need to understand at an aggregate level what's going on. What content matters? You're looking hard. If you're looking to, and you should be looking at a digital-first strategy now, if you're looking at that, you've got to be asking yourselves, where should I invest in content? Rich media interactivity can be expensive. You've got to make wise decisions on those investments. And my suggestion is you can't do that unless you have the analytics to support you on that. So I don't know for you what the right analytics are, but I'm confident you've got to have those analytics. And so in terms of takeaways, if you don't have within your organization people who are assigned to this kind of responsibility, people who are knowledgeable in this area, then I strongly encourage you to take those steps, find those resources. The next piece is, it's likely that you are not in direct control of all of your content fulfillment. So I also encourage you to work with content fulfillment partners who understand your need for this kind of information. So whether you're on the institutional side, the publishing side, or in some other business, the analytics matter. Work with folks who get that. Work with folks who are willing to sit down with you and make sure that you're getting the right information that you need to make the right investments in your business. A little plug for O'Reilly. Big data is it's certainly been a topic here. If you're not familiar with big data, it really is sort of one of the emerging technology trends is the focus on big data. I'm sure that there are O'Reilly folks here who would be glad to give you information on attending their Strata conference coming up at the end of February. But I'd really encourage you to engage your business in making sure that you have the analytics you need to make the key decisions. Another point that I found interesting out of the Great by Choice book was this. First fire bullets and then cannonballs. So what do they mean by that? What's a bullet? By their definition, a bullet is an empirical test aimed at learning what works. It's low cost, it's low risk, and it's low distraction to your business. If you're going to fail at things, we like to say fail fast. So how do you do that? You need to be able to iterate frequently, and you need to make sure you got the information to know if it's working or not. Once you figure out where your target is, once you're calibrated at your target, be prepared to scale. This business is a lot about scaling. So be prepared to scale. Fire then the cannonballs, right? But don't do that until you understand, get yourself calibrated. So how can you do that? Well, one is you don't have to do everything yourself. There are some really bright, creative, energetic businesses, folks developing many of these solutions and making significant investments so that you don't have to make those yourself. VitalSource last year made an acquisition of a company called VPG. These guys, for example, provide a very scalable, low-cost way to generate data-driven learning objects. Very, very cost-effective approach. But there are many companies who are out making the investments, working on these technology solutions so that you don't have to do that yourself. So leverage as many of these opportunities as you can. Find low-cost solutions that you can experiment with. That's one point. Another point is make effective use of assets that you already have. It's expensive to create new rich media assets. Make effective use of the ones that you already have. A good friend of mine, Peter Osnos, many of you may know, wrote this or an article in The Atlantic about the success of the Jacqueline Kennedy enhanced ebook. And sort of a fundamental message was, one of the things that made this work is you had this tremendous archive, right, of this information that had already been collected. But the creation of that kind of content in a new form would have been a major expense that would dramatically change the economics, maybe not made it happen. Of course, in this case, you couldn't have made it happen. But again, take advantage of the assets that you already have. Third point on this is find shorter test intervals. The education space is full of very long cycles, long editorial cycles in publishing, long adoption cycles, long semesters. Find shorter opportunities. These little graphs are really meant so the top is meant to depict kind of the traditional academic calendar with semesters and a summer session and another semester, right? And the bottom is more frequent intervals, more frequent term starts. Find the places with your business where you can get shorter intervals so that you can test and iterate more frequently. How do you do that? Well, in education, there are plenty of really great examples. Rio Salado College, fastest growing online community college, 41,000 students. They start a new term every week. I was just at the Make an Information Pay conference last week, heard from the chief learning officer from Kaplan. They start 1,000 new students going through a new term every week. Those are examples. Some of the early adopters are working on much different cycle times. Take advantage of those. Again, I don't know if that's appropriate for you. If you're in the trade space, maybe you've got, to look at different things, but I think this dovetails nicely with what we heard from the lean startup, right? Find those fast cycle points. So the question for you, are you firing bullets or cannonballs? Again, find partners who can give you low-cost opportunities. Find the shorter interval opportunities so that you can iterate quickly. The change is moving so fast, you can't use traditional cycle times and iterate enough times kind of through this. You've got to find those shorter intervals. And then be prepared to scale, whether that's your own internal scalability or whether it's finding partners who can help you make sure that they can then fire cannonballs with you. So I hope that's helpful in terms of just helping you invest wisely. These are really disruptive times, challenging times, exciting times for us. We are all, I think, trying to figure out how to change forward fast. And then all I like to say is we certainly, at VitalSource and at Ingram, we're making significant investments. We'd love to be part of your solution set. Thank you for having me.